The Pope's Final Message, a novella by P.J. Gott and Logan Light. Chapter 9, Call to Rome, Santa Fe, New Mexico, March 28, 2023. A breeze stirred the curtain framing an open window. Pamela sat with her journal open, pages brimming with notes and translations, some scribbled in Greek, others in a Proto-Hebrew script she had taught herself to read through long hours of patient study. Joe stood at the table, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. He handed one to her. "I dreamed of him again," Pamela said softly. "The Pope?" Pamela nodded. "He didn't speak this time. He just held out the feather and pointed to a road that led to a city I didn't recognize. But when I woke, I knew. It was Rome." Joe smiled. "That doesn't surprise me." Pamela looked up. "Why?" "You've been circling something for months. All these symbols, the scrolls, the numbers. You said they form a pattern. Maybe it all leads there." Pamela smiled faintly. "I've always known it ends there. I just didn't think I'd be invited." She touched the letter that had arrived days earlier, postmarked from Vatican City, a formal invitation, handwritten in a looping script. "His Holiness invites you and a companion for private consultation and prayer regarding your research on the Nasarene lineage and the recovered writings." Pamela traced the papal seal at the bottom. "He knows what I'm doing, or he suspects." Joe frowned. "But why now?" Pamela closed the journal. "Because we're getting close, and because what we found might change everything," she added. "And he's well into his 80s. His time on Earth is running out." She stood and walked to the window, looking out across the high desert toward the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. What if they knew this was coming? What if the line wasn't broken, just hidden? Joe nodded. "Then it isn't the end, it's the next beginning." The curtains rippled silently in the wind, and Pamela felt it. The call, pulling her across oceans, centuries, and walls of doctrine. It wasn't a summons of power. It was a memory waking up. She whispered. "Travel arrangements came with the invitation. The car will pick us up here next Wednesday and take us to the airport." "That's it? Nothing about a flight?" "I guess they'll let us know when they pick us up." She smiled. "Can we leave next week?" "You can leave next week. I'll stay here with these 4-legged rugrats." He looked down at Lucas and Peanut. "Mom's leaving you with me. That okay with you too?" 2 wagging tails answered, urging her to hurry up and go, so Dad might break the rules and hand out more treats than usual. She knelt to scratch Peanut's head, smiling as Lucas nudged in for his share. "I'll see if Leah wants to come along. She's always ready for a new adventure." She paused, smiling. "Especially the kind that begins in Rome." The following Wednesday at 8 o'clock sharp, the Ford SUV arrived at the Santa Fe Regional Airport with 2 awestruck women. A sleek white jet, chartered through a Vatican diplomatic channel, waited on the private tarmac, its engines already humming. No markings, no manifest, only the quiet precision of a church that still knew how to move unseen. Leah glanced at Pamela as they walked toward the plane. "Aren't you excited? We're being escorted to Rome to meet with the Pope." Pamela smiled. "But am I summoned to receive confirmation or damnation?" Chapter 10, The Nazarene Transmission. Rain splattered the cobblestones outside the apartment provided for them in Rome. Pamela sat beneath an arched portico, her notebook open, pages fluttering in the breeze. Leah stood nearby, admiring the architecture, its blend of imperial strength and sacred symbolism, invisible to most but fascinating to her. Leah opened a bottle of wine and poured it with dramatic flair. Toast to Rome, she said. Pamela smiled. A toast to Rome. Their glasses met with a delicate chime, like a distant bell echoing through history. They took a sip, letting the warmth of the red wine settle their nerves. It was earthy and dark, with notes of cherry and something ancient, soil near a temple ruin. The Pope had summoned them. His handwritten note had been urgent but vague. Quote, "The time has come to remember." He sent a car that delivered them to the Casa Santa Marta, adjacent to St. Peter's Basilica. They were ushered through a fresco-lined corridor, returned to the left, then to a small room at the end of the hall. The Pope stood by a tall window, his back to them, his silhouette etched in gray light. He heard their footsteps and turned to greet them. "Thank you so much for coming. I believe our interests may align more than you know." He shrugged, tilted his head boyishly, and smiled. "It hasn't been easy to faithfully serve a history built on betrayal." He looked at Pamela. "Thank you for your courage. Discovering it was one thing. Choosing to write about it another entirely." Pamela bowed slightly. Leah remained still. He turned and gestured to a table where a codex lay open. Parchment was old. Hebrew letters swirled in careful calligraphy, but between them, Pamela saw Greek annotations and faint Latin glosses. "This," he said, "is the only known copy of the original. It is the Midrash of Yazoo. It was a midrashic drama, written to be performed. The audience was never to merely listen. They were meant to awaken." Pamela reached for it, her hand trembling. "How did you acquire it?" "It was found beneath the Santa Maria Maggiore," he said. "They buried it under the foundation, hidden beneath centuries of ritual and praise." Leah leaned in. "Jesus, is this what the high priests called Jesus the Nazarene?" The Pope nodded. "It is a name and a title, an enigma that merged two gods, Yahweh and Zeus. It worked before in Egypt when Osiris and Apis became Serapis." Pamela and Leah looked down to see the familiar words she had already discovered and reported. BRSTBRLHM, Barish et Abor Elohim. She spoke them aloud. Son of Man, Father Light, Goddess Mother. Leah frowned. "I was taught in Bible study that BRSTBRLHM contains the opening words in Genesis and are translated, 'In the beginning God created.'" The Pope smiled faintly. "The Torah was always two texts in one. So too is the Christian Bible, layered, encrypted." Pamela flipped a few pages, all in Hebrew. It was a story of Pharaoh's baker sentenced to be crucified, but saved by her son's quick thinking. He explained to Pharaoh that the baker wasn't a goddess, but a god that had been castrated, a mother goddess veiled in plain sight. "Who wrote this?" Leah asked. "Marcus," the Pope said, "Marcus Antonius, Joel's nephew. It was written in Hebrew. It was a script for a play, not a gospel. Matthew wrote his gospel for the purpose of separating Yazoo from the Nazarenes. His gospel was supposed to replace Mark's midrash. Unfortunately for him, too many copies had already been distributed, so they changed a few words to make it support Matthew's claim. Jesus came from BTLHM became Jesus came from Nazareth." "You mean he didn't come from Nazareth?" Leah asked. He smiled. "Biblical scholars have agonized for centuries over why Mark omitted Bethlehem, the little town, and Betula-M, translated Virgin Mother. Both were removed when Bethlehem was changed to Nazareth." He turned to a smaller document on the table. signed in flowing Aramaic script. This is the covenant of transmission. Each high priest of the Nazarenes was required to memorize the entire Midrash and pass it on to only one successor, a chain unbroken until the 4th century, when the Nazarene line was silenced. Pamela pointed to a faded emblem at the corner of the page, a feather, crowned. The Pope nodded, the symbol of the living transmission. Outside, thunder rolled. Leah whispered, "Then it was never lost, merely sleeping." He smiled and said, "And it's time we wake it up." He turned to Pamela and handed her the feather from the emblem. It was longer than she'd expected, silvery gray with edges soft as silk and a weight that surprised her. More than symbolic, this was the real thing, passed down through hands that remembered. Not ink, not drawing, a real feather. Pamela lifted the feather. It shimmered, catching light like memory stirred awake. A transmission reawakened, silent no more. This concludes chapters 9 and 10. Join us next time for chapter 11, The Keeper of the Bones.